falsehood, you're faced with two options. You can accept it or you can reject it. The basis upon which we take one of these actions is a product of our critical thinking capabilities and a desire to know what is true instead of confirming our bias. A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is still putting on its shoes. On Brainstorm, we choose the hard truths over the comforting lies. Reason, compassion, skepticism. This is the Brainstorm Podcast.
Hey folks, normally I don't do this for panel show segments, but I want to mention before this one comes out that it's kind of been a busy news week, with all the articles and takes on the Christchurch shooting and lots of information coming out about that. And then also the Mueller report just came out this last Friday on, I think it was March 20th. Which was 5 days after we recorded this. So, about a week after we recorded this. So I just want to give you a heads up that some of this news might be out of date. It's in this current news cycle, things move super fast. But we covered as much as we could at the time, and I hope you enjoy it.
If you like what we're doing and want to help us keep the lights on, go become a patron at patreon.com/Brainstorm Podcast. You can hear the bonus half hour that we record every episode and get a shout out when you support the show. Become a patron for just $1 an episode at patreon.com/Brainstorm Podcast. Or you can support the show by ordering a t-shirt, mug or other gear from our store at caffeepress.ca/Brainstorm Podcast Gear. If you can't afford to become a patron or buy gear, then why not give us a rating or write a review on iTunes or Stitcher? Every rating makes it easier for people to find us. Thanks for your support.
All right. Hi, and welcome to the Brainstorm Rectable, the Brainstorm production that covers news and current events from the past month with a mind towards critical thinking and progressive values. I'm Cory, and my panel tonight are Rene.
Hello.
And Lisa.
I am not Angela.
And we're not in Roman Empire Studios in Regina, Saskatchewan. Today is March 15th, 2019. And if you want to contact us about the show, then you can do that by emailing mail@brainstormblog.net. And if you want to support the show, then you can do that at patreon.com/brainstormpodcast. Let's talk about Michael Cohen.
Oh, yeah. I made the show notes and I put that one at the top for the rec table because I thought it was important. But you know, it's funny because with the news cycle as it is, it's like, who? You know what I mean? Like, because that was like a whole week ago. And so it's like, but like at the time, to me, it just seemed like fucking mind blowing. Like, I don't know.
It legitimately mattered a week ago.
Does it legitimately? Does it still matter? I think so.
Sort of, because he dropped a lot of bombs.
Yeah.
Like, as a couple other podcasts I was listening to said, is there was a whole bunch of people that suddenly got very names he dropped, they got very nervous because they know they were getting a phone call from FBI, someone important.
Yeah. I don't know. A lot of people on shows that I listen to, they're humming and hawing. Well, is this going to make a difference? Is there going to be an impeachment? Is this ever going to matter?
The thing is, I don't. The problem is I don't know if it actually will lead to an impeachment, but it will put a lot of. I think what's happening is it's putting a lot of pressure on things outside of the government.
Are we listening to the lunacy of this? Like 3-4 years ago, somebody goes to Congress and makes those kind of statements about the president, and it's career ending. Like, no fucking question. What Twilight Zone are we fucking living in? Like just the things he said. He is just straight out. He is a racist. Yeah. He is, just the things he said. did like the legal shit that he did, that he really made him seem like a mob boss, and nobody was fucking surprised. And the Republicans couldn't even fucking defend him. All they could do was try to be like, well, you just want a book deal, right? Like that's all they fucking had. It was insane.
It's totally messed up. I mean, here he is, his lawyer fixer who paid off the porn star and the playwright model and whatever. Meanwhile, 20 years before, they impeached Clinton for lying about a blowjob.
Yeah.
Trump is probably kicking himself daily for not being able to saying, damn straight, I banged her. It's just so messed up.
It's unbelievable. I don't know. I feel like it in a normal universe, it would have an impact. How can this not have? How can this not?
Obama a liar because with the health care, he said if you like your doctor, you could keep your doctor, and there was some weird issues with the policy, so that may not have been totally true. So they were calling him a liar. Trump has lied on a documented what's the count now? 9,000 times.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. I don't understand. It's we live in a Looney Tunes sort of world. I don't know. It's just, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I feel like I've given up. Like, I don't know, man. Like, how can this be a thing?
I got nothing.
As they keep saying, it's because Trump didn't expect to win.
Yeah.
He wasn't supposed to win.
But I believe, who said that recently? Like one of his closest, was it Cohen who said that?
It was Cohen.
Yeah. He didn't, it was just a way to increase ratings, increase his brand profile. And he really didn't think he was going to win.
Yeah.
Like, and people have been saying that for a long time. But I think the first time I ever saw that was Michael Moore, actually, I think, who was like, this is what I think. I think he probably never thought, he just thought he'd increase his profile and his brand. He was negotiating the next season of The Apprentice.
There was
fucking Apprentice gave us this shit. Yep. If you don't think reality TV is evil, I mean,
yeah. Well, actually, I watched a show called the Culture Shots or something, and it went through the history of reality TV back into the talk shows, and reality TV literally gave us where we are now in the political sphere.
It's bad. I don't know. Maybe there's nothing else to say about it, but he said, if you have, we won't rehash all the things he said, but go watch a summary. Seth Meyers' summary of it was pretty funny, and maybe it makes you stomach it better. You should watch it because it's actually something you can watch without barfing because he makes it funny.
Right.
The Daily had a good serious summary of it. I watched the Stay Tuned podcast with Preet Bharara, who's a former U.S. attorney. He had some very interesting thoughts on it. He always has like a little bit at the beginning of the show about current events. So he had an interesting take on it from like a legal perspective. So he's a very measured guy. So, and that was a good one. But it seems like a really big deal.
It seems like it. Although now they're saying that the Mueller investigation is coming to a close soon. They're saying that, but it hasn't, right? Like, it hasn't. Preet
keeps saying that actually you never know when to investigate, like, and that's all just speculation. And
that's true.
So,
well, the problem is because it keeps spiraling out into other things. Like Mueller's might be coming to a close because he was given a very limited scope,
right?
But they keep stumbling into stuff, so they keep passing that off to other people.
But the Mueller investigation has been notoriously closed-lipped. Like he has not had any leaks, so we actually don't really know where they are.
Have no idea.
They've had a lot of indictments and blah blah blah, but still we don't, like, they really have not communicated a lot. So there was a good piece. Was it again on? Oh yeah. What the Daily's been doing a series. I've only listened to like the first 1.5 of them. What to expect when you're expecting, in parentheses, the Mueller report.
Oh yeah.
So there's parts 1, 2, and 3 out there now. And I thought it was really interesting that they when Comey had a report on Hillary Clinton's email, he did an investigation, and he ended up kind of taking, rather than, because the options are pretty much, you issue the report and there's actual recommendations for action, or for indictment or of that the president did something illegal. Right. There's you issue a report, but there's not enough evidence, and that's what you say. But in either case, it doesn't have to be made public. But what Comey chose to do was to there wasn't enough evidence for to show that something truly illegal had happened. But what he did was actually made a public statement to that effect. We're
which
not
was
recommending.
Kind of unprecedented, right?
Well, yeah, and so it was taken by Clinton's detractors. It was like, why are you defending her? And to Clinton's supporters, it was like, well, why are you sullying her name? If you found nothing, you should have just said found nothing.
Yeah,
without. If I understood it right, he released that because they all assumed Clinton was going to win, so he didn't want it to look like they buried the lead.
I think that's exactly right. So anyway, but because he was so crucified for that, like, it feels like Mueller probably won't do that. This whole report may never become public, despite all the press around it, right?
Well, the Democrats are pushing to make it public, but we'll see if that actually happens.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a crazy situation down there. I don't even know. I don't get it.
Yeah. You got to just hope that he goes out in 2020, that you get a Democrat elected.
Yeah, but the Democrats seem to be doing what the Republicans did in the last election of having like a field way too full of candidates. Like, I get that it's, people want to throw their hat in the ring, but Jesus.
It's same problem, but different, because the Democrats have almost all like pretty good candidates.
Kind of, but are any of them like a front runner though? Like, is there any of them?
Yeah, it's the Democrats. Always
it really depends who you ask.
But then if you were to look at everyone that ran for the Republicans, it was just like Trump was terrible, but who was better than Trump? Like, it was like they were all terrible. It was just
I don't know. There's a lot of good candidates, but I almost think there are getting to be too many. Like now with Beto O'Rourke jumping in, it's like, okay, and then Bernie was just like a few days ago too announced.
I'm sorry, I can't get on board with Bernie Sanders. I can't. If he was 20 years younger, I could. But he's just too fucking old. Like, I'm sorry, but he can't. He can't be 90 years old when his term is over. Like, that's too fucking old. I'm sorry.
That's actually, I've heard that on other podcasts where they were talking about that does work against him, because he's 77, 78, and there's people still kicking around Joe Biden, and he's a year older than Bernie.
Joe Biden, please. Joe Biden can go away, please. I don't want to see him.
No.
You know what? He was fine as vice under Obama. Loved the memes because they were hilarious.
But a memeable person isn't necessarily presidential material.
No, I mean, the only reason they're kicking him around is because he has instant name recognition.
Yeah.
But
we need another Obama. We need another person who could just become like a clear front runner with a clear dynamic.
That's another thing that they're saying is that right now is that there's all these names being tossed in the right now, but we still have basically might as well say 2 years before the actual election.
Yeah.
And Obama wasn't even on the radar until the last.
No, for sure. Yeah, that's
true. Yeah. So
what about Elizabeth Warren?
I love Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah, I think she's getting, like, honestly, in terms of age, she's also getting up there, but she's probably the maximum age I would support.
She has some baggage, but
she does. She's made some poor decisions in some of her battles with Trump, but she's not. She also has a history of being, she's worked so tirelessly for to help people who've been defrauded by credit card companies and money lenders, and she just really does seem to be I don't know, I feel like she's a genuinely passionate person who's very admirable. I really admire her. But
for sure. I liked Kirsten Gillibrand, but then some stuff came out about her abusing her employees.
Apparently she's a tough boss. Yeah.
And then I don't mind Kamala Harris, but she also has a really problematic history as a prosecutor. And
well, the thing is that, mind you, that's part of the problem with, shall we say, the left or Democrats or whatever. So right? We kind of crucify our own. Like, I mean, yeah, she does have a bit of a problematic history as a prosecutor, but she also was a prosecutor.
Right.
I mean, that was kind of her job.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, I mean, there is some definite criticisms and some baggage there. Like, she went after people that, you know.
That's the thing, too. Like, are we expecting a perfect
That's
candidate?
the problem, is everyone's looking
Like,
for
years. That's how it's been in the United States. Is you really basically have to be untouchable, blah blah.
Yeah.
But I mean, in this day and age, like this was different in the 70s and 80s. But in this day and age, like when you think or 90s, you know, the amount of scrutiny, like the amount, like social media, like it's impossible.
We don't find out how much of an asshole they are until 20 years after they're out of office.
No, that's not true. And the thing, you end up with a candidate like Trump who's just so over the top that he's just so clearly an asshole. It doesn't matter. Like it's just, it's like that's part of his appeal. Like I don't know. I mean, but you look at somebody like Barack Obama was in the modern age and he was literally unimpeachable. But like his character
but they
was
crucified him.
I know, but like the stuff they tried to get him on was really so minor. Like in retrospect, it's like, oh, he wore a brown suit instead of a gray suit. Like it was like
he wore mom jeans and
like it was.
But they made him.
He looks good in mom jeans. Okay.
Nice.
What are you talking about?
He was a
Trump's
MILF.
the healthiest president to ever be in the office.
Yeah.
Please make it stop.
Do not think the word healthy means what you think it means.
Shit. I don't.
All right. Well, I guess that we can move on to from American politics to Canadian politics.
Which I think there is a kind of a link there.
Yeah.
The problem is because we're trying to blow it up to be an American style
Right.
scandal, which
Americans think it's cute.
yeah. But that's what is a problem I have had with Canadian politics is our politics tend to go American style, but it's extremely Canadian light.
Yeah.
You know, like I mean, they're trying to blow up this SNC Lavalin as this big thing, and it's shady. It's shady as fuck.
Yeah.
But it's not as bad as...
And it isn't how government should work.
No.
Hey, can somebody? Sorry, I tried to find a good summary of this whole situation. Could somebody explain it to me? Like explain to me like I'm 5. Like I don't.
Okay. So I'm not sure what crimes they committed.
From my understanding is, and I'd have to, you know what? I'll see if I can find
SNC
it.
So basically,
Lavalin committed crimes.
Okay.
Basically, what they did was they bribed some very shady people. They bribed like Gaddafi.
Oh, right.
Yeah, there was some really shady
So
shit.
then they're about to potentially go on trial or something.
Okay.
Well, the thing is they've done all the shady shit from, and I'll try to see if I can find there was a summary someone I know posted. But anyway, they did all the shady shit from 2005 to about 2014 when they started getting investigated. And so that they're about to go under trial for this kind of stuff. And this is where it gets shady, is because
Minister of Justice. Yeah.
Well,
No.
well, that's just
In her
it.
role as Attorney General.
Okay. Sorry.
She was getting pressure to. This is where it was weird, is that they weren't saying don't prosecute, but they're putting pressure on her not to. Like there's a deferred prosecution agreement that they could, which I don't understand. I'll freely admit, but basically they're trying to get her to prosecute them but not in a way to trigger this other law that would make it so that they couldn't.
Yeah. Then they can't do business,
or at least can't do business with the Canadian government. And there's such a big firm that that's a lot of contracts. Yeah. And because of all this swirling, they were threatening to move their office out of Quebec to London, England. Yeah. And so they put the pressure on to try to save the jobs. Which is...
And the whatever her name is, she felt pressured.
Yeah, Jody Wilson-Raybould.
Felt pressured to kind of give them a pass. She felt pressured by the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
And the Prime Minister says that's not what he meant.
Yes. Yeah. So I guess that's a Canadian scandal. It's not good. Like, I don't want the prime minister's office.
Brain teaser, man. Like, fucking Trump is a racist. Like, he slept with a porn star and I paid her off. Like, that I can fucking understand. This, I'm like, there's a lot to do what? Like,
it's a lot of legal ins and outs. And
then, of course, they're trying to blow it up as if what happened to her was the same as the Saturday Night Massacre under Nixon. I'm like,
nope.
No, Nixon called his attorney general into his office. You kill the prosecution. No, I won't. Okay, you're fired. Next guy.
Yeah.
Okay, you're fired. And
he went down the line until he found somebody who would bury it.
And the thing was they were looking into stuff he was doing. This is just them trying to protect jobs in Quebec, which is, like I said, it's still shady as fuck, but it's not quite the same thing.
Mm.
Yeah, like, I don't want the government interfering with investigations or trials, or even if it means that a company is going to suffer, right? If they did something wrong,
the Canadian employees would suffer.
Yeah, well, that's the trouble.
That's the risk, or that's the worry, I assume.
It sounds like, and I don't know the numbers. I just know that people I listen to have said that the 9,000 jobs is an overinflated number.
Okay.
They're probably half-assed pulling numbers out of their ass.
They have 9,000 office employees kind of all over Canada, and it would only be the ones that are in the Quebec that would actually lose their position if they moved. So I don't know how many that actually works out to being, but
there's probably larger numbers down the line if they started losing contracts or whatnot.
That's true.
Like I said, it's not cool. It's shady, but it's not.
Because Andrew Scheer is calling for his resignation.
Yeah, which is ridiculous, right? As if the Conservatives would have ever not interfered.
Well, I found the air.
Why did you get so pro Trudeau, dude? I seem to remember episodes of the podcast where you're just shitting on him the whole time.
Well, it's when the facts are against him that I'm.
You and your critical thinking bullshit.
I mean, it's a case of a bit of a disappointment because Trudeau was trying to supposedly run it not like standard politics, but it's
that's what they all say.
That's what they all say.
What is it? 2008, 2011, and 2011 to 2014, and another one in 2011. SNC-Lavalin had legal issues that were under Stephen Harper. I don't know if you can say that Stephen Harper did anything with them or not.
Yeah, I mean, it was under his watch, but who knows what he actually knew about it. I mean,
yeah.
But this idea that, calling for Trudeau's resignation and that Scheer would do anything different.
Yeah. The Conservative Party is literally like the party that will bend over for big business every single time. So to imagine that Scheer would not have catered to SNC-Lavalin and interfered, and we never would have heard about it because his attorney general, whoever he had appointed in that position, would have just kept going along with it because that's the Conservative way.
Well, that's the thing is under Harper, everything was done through the PMO and was done with such a heavy hand.
Yeah.
That's where the Liberals fuck up is because they're not ruling with an iron fist.
Well, and yeah, they have people who think for themselves and stand up for their own ethics. And, so Jody Wilson-Raybould felt pressured and came forward with that, and it came out.
And there's been some other resignations over it too.
Yeah.
Although I'm a cynical bastard, so I'm just going, how many of these people they resigned? They didn't resign from the Liberal Party. They resigned from their post.
Yeah.
Knowing full well that there's an election coming up so that they could then, if it really goes south, they can spin it as well.
Look, I resigned, eh? Yeah.
To be fair, in almost any workplace, you can have situations or any relationship between people, you can have situations where one person felt pressure and another person was like, no, that's not what I meant. You know what I mean? Like that's a thing. And I think it certainly is possible in a situation where it's your boss and it's the Prime Minister of Canada, you know, any little, you know.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I was listening to a podcast. Oh, it was one you wouldn't like. It's about Sam Harris, but he was interviewing a guy. It was Sam Harris, but he was interviewing a guy who studies workplace dynamics, and he was saying that it's very common for bosses like in a team setting, right? If there's a boss and all the employees, if a boss leans in any way, one way or the other, the whole team tends to go that way. Just it's just something that's been studied, and it's not conscious. It's like people tend to try to go towards the leader to try to
like anything your boss does influences you.
So I mean, they were talking about how, like, for one thing, but a good boss actually wants his team to state all the options and wants them to disagree with him in that closed door setting, and and then once he makes or she makes a decision, then you go with that. But he sort of wants that frank discussion. And so they were talking about one way to foster that is to just kind of for the boss to not say anything and to be very silent until people kind of do come to So it's
I know
an approach.
from just my own work experience that when your boss says something, you do feel inclined to go along with it.
There's a power dynamic there.
Yeah.
That's why it's not right for it's not possible to give consent to have sex with your boss, for example, right?
Exactly.
Because there's a power dynamic there that's not fair.
So when the Prime Minister says something, even if he didn't mean to.
Well, I'm just saying it actually is possible that that's how he meant. I mean, I'm just.
There's also the possibility of. And like I've read some of the stuff, and like I mean Justin Trudeau was in a couple meetings, but there was also possibility that he was not in a couple meetings, and there was heavier handed stuff going on when he wasn't there. Yeah, just because they're like, well, no, that's what he really wants, so we're gonna,
Yeah, like what was his name? Is Gerald Butts?
Yeah,
he like Jody Wilson-Raybould said that. He told her that there was no solution that didn't involve her interfering, or that was the message she got. But that's when Gerald Butts was in the committee. He didn't see it that way. But I mean, I don't know. Different.
Well, once again, it's not a cool scenario, but it's Canadian politics, so it's getting blown up to being, he threatened to kill her cat if she didn't do this. Like it's not cool. And everyone that already hates Trudeau are just, he should resign now.
Wow, yeah. Should we talk about pipelines? I don't want to talk about pipelines anymore.
I don't know anything about it. You guys talked a lot about it last time. You knew things. I didn't know things.
It's the same thing, though.
Yeah. Well, it's... you mean the United We Roll crap?
Yeah, we can. Let's go to United We Roll. These a bunch of oil field workers from Alberta and Saskatchewan get in their trucks.
I've seen some of the pictures on
drive
Facebook.
Out to Ottawa and sit on the Parliament lawn and demand that the government or Justin Trudeau come out and talk to them. And he didn't.
Yeah. Well, yeah, my uncle was posting about that. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe he didn't come out and talk to him. Well, it's like, well, how many of those assholes called to hang him for treason? He was probably advised not to.
These they also had like kind of a weird setup with speakers or something. And I guess Faith Goldie spoke in front of them or spoke to them.
Oh yeah, right.
Like, and I don't know, for people who don't necessarily know who Faith Goldie is, she's essentially she's a former Rebel employee.
Rebel Media.
Yeah. She's a anti-migrant, anti-Muslim, white nationalist figure who.
She's like a Canadian Ann Coulter.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
Oh, we have one?
Yeah. We've actually got a couple.
I learned so much from you guys.
Yeah. Not good stuff, though.
Well, good to know.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, so then I guess Faith Goldie spoke to them, unless I'm mixing up my articles. And then right after that, Andrew Scheer spoke to them.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's in the same article, but yeah, that's all kind of what went on.
Yeah.
And that does kind of, I think you're kind of bleeding the two articles, the extreme right and the United We Roll thing. But at any rate,
because they mix so much.
Well, yeah, they overlap. Because that's just as he did speak and just kind of glossed over the right wing, crazy elements in there.
There was a whole other thing actually. Andrew Scheer was at some other speaking engagement, and somebody asked him about the Clinton Foundation and Pizzagate and all this shit. That's what it is. That's just who his followers are now.
Well, that's because we're becoming Americanized. Because how many of these people, and that's next time if I deal with my uncle.
Wasn't Pizzagate debunked like 30 seconds after it came out?
Yeah, exactly.
Like to anybody with any brain whatsoever? No? Or is that still a thing?
Yeah, but it shouldn't be a thing.
It shouldn't be a thing. But these people, how many of these people still listen to Alex Jones?
That's true.
Alex Jones? I thought he's not on Twitter anymore.
He's still got his website. He's got no YouTube, no Facebook, and no Twitter, but he's still got his website. So
that's good enough.
Good enough. They'll go searching.
Yeah, he's still got his own websites. He's still allowed on his own websites.
Okay, yeah, freedom of speech, blah, blah, blah.
I made the mistake of actually listening to him being interviewed by Joe Rogan.
Ugh. I can't stand Joe Rogan on the best of days.
See, I disagree with you on that one because I don't mind Joe Rogan. I just take him with like 6 grains of salt. But a
tablespoon of salt.
He is very salty.
He did pump the brakes. I don't know, a million times on Alex Jones.
Yeah. Well, now they've got a feud going on, eh?
Well, no. This was the.
Oh, was that pre-feud?
This was post because this is how they buried it. He came on the show and they kind of buried it. But it was because, and this is
because Rogan's followers like Jones, he couldn't afford to lose us.
Because Alex Jones was saying some really crazy fucking shit.
No.
Yeah, no, shocking. But he was bringing Joe Rogan into it and he's like, what the fuck? So, but anyway, he interviewed him and he pumped the brakes because Alex Jones was going off on.
Because he does that.
Yeah, you know this, Joe, the human hybrids, the chimeras that they're making at MIT, and because they exist right in that in between line between humans and animals, so they're not covered by either of human rights or animal rights. Okay, wait a minute, Alex, you're going off on
That's not how ethics review board works.
No,
that's not how anything works.
Not even for animals. No, that's not a thing.
But that's the thing is like Canadian politics, I find we're always 5 years after the curve. So we're becoming Americanized. And that's where you get all this shit about, like in my rant about the globalists. I can't even read any comments where they say globalists without adding it with a Alex Jones-esque growl.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is we're getting all the American-esque bullshit into our Canadian politics, and it's just frustrating.
Mm-hmm. I don't know
Super
what to
frustrating.
Say. It's bizarre. And there are people who are posting like in these yellow vest groups and the United We Roll stuff, and they're kind of on board with, like, they're celebrating this shooting that happened last night.
I haven't seen any of that, but
what do you subscribe to?
Well, I follow the pages that follow these people.
I see.
So then you see the worst of the worst.
You get some meta-analysis going on.
Yeah. And like yellow vest leaders were applauding these guys who shot up the mosques in New Zealand.
It's just bizarre. A guy who's from Australia goes to New Zealand bitching about migrants.
He's a migrant.
Apparently, Christchurch in New Zealand is a Nazi hub in New Zealand. They have 2 specific like neo-Nazi groups right in that city. Apparently.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
I didn't until today.
Yeah.
So.
I need more caffeine for this conversation. I just don't. Okay, so maybe we should roll. We could take a step back here. Okay. Is shooting people okay?
It is not.
Okay. All right. I think I'm actually there. We're on the same page. No, we're good. Okay. Maybe we just next. Like,
Next,
fuck,
yeah.
I don't even like. I don't get it. Like, nobody thinks that shooting people is okay. Any group of people. I'm obviously not religious. I don't agree with what, Islam teaches because I don't believe in God and it's just not a thing. But the same way that I don't believe that in what Mormonism teaches or any of that. However, I shoot very few Mormons and very few. The number is virtually zero.
In fact, it is zero.
It is zero. Oh, right.
I don't know,
I actually don't shoot anyone.
Yeah, I don't shoot anyone either.
Hardly ever. I mean, never. That's it. That's the whole. To me, that's the whole lesson. Most people, 99% of people, are just like, that's dumb.
I don't understand the reasoning behind it. Like, I mean, this guy. I mean, I've seen, because obviously Facebook is full of it because of this. But this guy is like, because of 9/11 and all this other kind of stuff. Which, granted, 9/11 was bad, but
that was also an example of people killing people because they didn't agree with their beliefs, which is also bad.
Yeah,
all of these things are bad. which generally
weird,
bad.
Which the weird thing is, other than the number,
stop killing people.
Yeah, don't kill people in general, but I think it gets a lot of media attention when somebody kills another person for whatever beliefs they have. I think it gets a lot of attention because my belief is or their belief, whatever the killer's belief, is diametrically opposed to the victim's beliefs, and for some reason, I mean, and that gains a lot of traction because it's scary and it's dramatic and blah blah, which is why they do it. Of course, it gets all this attention, but don't do that. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, mind you, that's the thing.
It's all bad.
Yeah.
That gets a lot of attention, but a bunch of, people die in a drug drive-by, and that's just Chicago.
Yeah, that's right.
It's.
Well, I mean, when it happens because of beliefs that many people hold, like a religion, like where many thousands or millions or billions of people hold a certain belief, then it becomes scarier. Yeah. But I mean, people get killed for their beliefs all the time. Like one of the number one killers of young women is domestic violence, right? And then you have a situation where somebody believes that this person should not have autonomy and should not have the ability to choose to be out of a relationship, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And they're only that one person with that belief and doesn't get that kind of coverage, right? Yeah. But it's the same thing. It's all people killing people because of
bad ideas, which I think goes to speak to to when we interviewed Jonathan earlier, to his critical thinking. For sure. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously I've been more following the far right lately. Well, the last I think few months.
I mean, the problem is because I'm a bit of a history nerd, I've noticed that, and I've had these debates with people. I think what it is the rise of the extreme right is in reaction to the fact that we've had a lot of mass immigration because of the destabilization of the Middle East. And the problem is we don't have the historical context, because last time this kind of stuff happened was World War II.
Right.
I mean, there was influxes during other times, like Vietnam War caused some, and there was a lot of anti-Vietnamese, both people, but it wasn't as large as it is right now. Yeah. You didn't have the mass migration out of the Middle East like you did because of the Syrian civil war. You had mass movements during World War II, and there was, there was a lot of factors, but there was a lot of flux because of post World War I leading into World War II, and that's what. And there's a lot of similar reasonings for the rise of the right. You have the mass migration, the economic instability, we just
that's their big myth, is their big belief is in the Great Replacement, right? They really believe that the white race is in danger of being wiped out by all this immigration, and increased birth rates.
Because humans will probably over generations not care about other people's race, and you're gonna get
that's right,
a more homogenous ethnic group.
That would sure be. I mean,
which is not bad.
I think of that as a good thing.
It's just at the very least, it's just a thing.
Yeah, that's right.
It's probably the truth. Anyway,
well, of course, yeah, all this ancestry bullshit, like, oh, you're pure Polish or whatever, fuck,
yeah, which is bullshit. But anyway,
I would just point out that immigration, because of things happening in the Middle East recently, has definitely been a factor in Europe, like Germany accepting, over 1 million people, blah blah blah. But I mean, in Canada though, we've been I've got, like, when I went to high school, I mean, I was a minority ethnically in my high school because there's a lot of immigration in Calgary. Like, it's it ain't just the Syrians.
But we've had a massive
I've watched a lot of Punjabi movies with friends.
That's all very true. That's all very true. But the focus is more so right now because we've had a much bigger
as a global
influx.
Movement. I think it especially has been influenced by the European, because Europeans have not had immigration like we've had in Canada, for example. And Americans have always been kind of xenophobic. So our kind of Canadians have kind of although they've, I guess, had a lot of immigration in general, but the Europeans, I think, are just like, what is this? I do not know. Like they're just like, I think they're super, like, it's been a really major change in a very short period of time, and then I think you might get some global traction that way because.
Yeah. But then again, that's just what I mean. It's the focus, right? Because I mean, I've heard the arguments where all of a sudden, well, what are we doing with all these, the legal immigration is fine, but all this, they're, putting them up in hotels for 3 years, which I don't know if any of that is true.
Legal immigration isn't fine to these people. That's just a smokescreen.
Yeah.
Like say, like all these people who come in legally still get targeted and pointed at, and as though they're the problem.
But I mean, that's also something that's always been a problem. I mean, 100 years ago, Irish need not apply.
Yeah, no, that's true.
I mean, there was that article I shared about the Mennonite invasion that happened in what was, they said, 1920s.
Yeah.
Like anytime there's a mass, everyone's, oh my,
Mennonites are terrible, though. We have to agree on that, right? Like, oh, sorry, no.
Sure. I don't know.
No, I don't know. I'm just joking.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But, I mean, a lot of our topics this week are kind of on the topic of, or this month are on the topic of the extreme right. And, like, the SPLC, they released a report saying that there are more hate groups in the U.S. right now than there have been in a very long time. Well, it's a record high, they say.
Well, it's because they've been, I think, building for a while, just because, like, it's that reaction to the simmering from post 9/11.
Yeah.
And you have a dickhead like Trump that just emboldens them.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's going to get more and more. Like, I watched that alt-right movie on Netflix.
Okay.
That was interesting.
Is that on Netflix now?
It is.
Oh, I've heard it's really good. My friend Sam Harris interviewed the woman who did the documentary, and you actually should listen to that one. You would like it. I think you would like, because he's yeah, she is really cool.
She's really fucking in-depth interviews with
Richard Spencer.
Richard Spencer.
Yeah. No, yeah. But she even gives him like a lot of behind, like the amount of danger she was in filming that was actually. Yeah. I didn't realize it wasn't on Canadian Netflix for a while, so I'm psyched now going to watch that shit. She's another one called about like on the Muslim side. I can't remember what it was called. She has another documentary where she interviews Muslim extremists because she's actually Muslim she's from the Netherlands. She living in Britain now, but she just makes these amazing films, and she's very cool, and she's super, super, super brave. I love her.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right, maybe I can listen to one episode of Sam Harris.
Or just watch the show, I guess. But that one, her name is Deidre or Deanna. So anyways, weird. I shouldn't even say things. They're wrong. I said no words. I don't believe in words.
So I guess to kind of lighten things up a little bit, maybe we can talk about our former hometown of Weyburn, where they recently made kind of some headlines.
Where they let's put it bluntly, they tripped over their own dicks.
Yeah. It was approached by city council was approached to give a permit to build a special care home for 4 residents who have special needs, and it's in the Creeks neighborhood.
Yeah, like a subdivision. Weyburn needed a subdivision.
It's one of the more well-off areas where some of the houses are worth like $700,000.
Which is bizarre. Weyburn and a house was $700,000.
Right. And so they city council voted to not let this be built. And then, of course, I don't know who was interviewing them, but the guy from Weyburn City Council was like, oh, well, there's the stigma against people, and
because they tripped over their own dicks,
and we're worried about our
housing values going down.
Jesus, they said that?
Yes.
It's just funny because there's just kind of the lack of refinement, like you know what I mean, like in a different in a more, I don't know, suave sort of politician would never say such a thing, but like they just said exactly.
Most politicians have media training, and these guys, no.
You get it at the lowest levels and the high. You get it at the Weyburn municipality level, and you get it at the White House level, and then not in between.
Yeah. No, it blew up. It was all over
massive
Canada.
backlash. It's really funny.
So sorry, just to be clear, they wouldn't let a what be built in a fancy
special
neighborhood?
care home.
They voted down a building permit because they're like, it was just going to be it was just like
We live in Canada. You cannot discriminate against people with disabilities. It's not a thing. Like, why would they open themselves up to like?
Apparently, some of the people thought it was going to be a halfway house. And I mean, I was talking to Dave the other night when I was picking up some gear, and we're thinking like, so what?
Yeah.
I don't care what it is. Like,
wow.
Like they're people that are going to have caretakers with them.
It was 24-hour care, is my understanding.
Are they changing their tone, or what's
well, they've apologized and stuff on.
They're allowing the building yet?
They haven't changed
the policy.
They've apologized but not done anything. That's not
changed the policy.
No, that's not how that works.
No, but they are getting roasted on the internet.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Apparently, Mayor Marcel Roy made some statements, but I don't think he made anything better. I don't know. This is where we grew up.
There is the buffet.
there is that KFC buffet.
There's that KFC buffet.
Super good.
But the funny thing I have noticed is the amount of like backlash, like Weyburnites are giving.
Oh yeah, that's
they're
right.
Just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, which is nice to see, actually.
It was kind of...
Well, who the fuck is against, like, people with disabilities? Who, like, looks at somebody with Down syndrome or whatever and is like, that's a horrible human being? Nobody!
Well,
no, doesn't matter if
that's
you're
not what they're saying. They're saying, though, that's ruin their property values.
Yeah,
ruin their property values.
They're going to wreck their property values.
Well, they were saying that the increased traffic... And it's like, there's 4 people in a care home.
Yeah.
How much extra traffic are you going to get?
There was a big hubbubaloo when the Mormons wanted to build a temple in a certain neighborhood in Calgary. There was they were all pissed off that blah, blah, blah. It got built anyways, but it's kind of fun. I remember that being a thing.
Well, I can understand the increased traffic because the Mormon place, there'll be a lot more people knocking on your door. Have you seen it?
No, they send them everywhere, but like it's a giant temple anyways, whatever.
Yeah.
You found Jesus? Yeah.
Good old Weyburn.
Where'd he go?
What else was in the news? It was a million years ago, but Jussie Smollett was charged with faking a hate crime.
Yeah, what a
fraud.
Dipshit. What
Who's this guy?
Dipshit.
I don't know anything. I try to pay attention to the news and I fail so fucking bad.
To sum up, he's an actor and apparently a singer.
Yeah.
It's from my understanding, and from someone who just ripped him a new asshole on a show you don't like, Bill Maher.
I just don't like Bill Maher. I don't mind the Bill Maher show.
I don't like it either.
I like his show. I don't mind Bill Maher, but some of the shit he says.
Yeah. No, anyways.
Like she said, it's like he's just a spoiled rich guy that was looking for a raise, and he, should be absolutely ashamed of himself. That
what did he do?
Basically, he hired 2 guys to fake beat him up and call him homophobic slurs.
Yeah. And racial slurs. And then put a fake noose around his neck.
Yeah, fake noose.
Is he actually gay?
Yes.
I believe so.
Yeah.
At least he's like putting his money where his mouth is.
Yeah.
No. Wrong saying.
He did actually plead not guilty. I think it was this morning or
really?
yesterday.
I didn't heard that, but that's not going to go very far because they had the check.
Right.
Apparently, he didn't learn anything from Trump. You don't pay off people in checks. They can trace those.
Cash only for that shit.
Only.
Bribes are cash only. Hey, speaking of bribes, do we want to do the college admission scandal briefly?
Yeah, sure.
Oh fuck! What a clusterfuck!
So I was just listening to this on the Daily earlier, so maybe I can summarize somewhat at this one at least. So it looks like there was kind of 2 levels. So this guy basically ran this business where he got. Well, at first his business was legitimate, and he actually just kind of counseled people on how to get into college. But then it became he just took money from rich people and celebrities to guarantee their kids admissions into college. Did it 2 ways. One, by getting into cahoots with the coaches at these colleges, because coaches can say it can kind of like usurp the admission process and just say, "Well, I want this guy.
Right.
I want this person.
Oh yeah, they're on my team.
I want this person." So they would get them in. And then they would like literally Photoshop pictures of the student. They'd be like, "Oh, I need a picture of an Asian girl in cross country," and they'd Photoshop your daughter's head on her, sort of thing. Okay, like literally. Right. Okay. And then the student would just kind of drop out of the team once they started school. Like they never actually did anything on the team.
Yeah.
Like they weren't athletic. That wasn't the thing. That's how they got them in. And some of the students didn't even know that. A lot of them apparently didn't even know their parents were doing this.
They were, they found
some
out
of them
when they talked to their counselors or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
the counselor would go, looks like you're really into pole vaulting, and they'd be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" So so there was the sports side of it, and the other side of it was they actually had a dude who worked at the test centers that this guy controlled, and he could take the SATs or whatever standardized test that they had, and he could get whatever grade you wanted for your kid. And so and as an adult man, it was an adult man going in.
Or there was some other thing where they paid people to take their SAT scores.
Yes. Well, that's the guy, but apparently it was mostly one guy who did the SAT scores. You had to be smart to do that, I guess, to get whatever grade. But anyway, yeah.
And they had where they'd send people to doctors so they could get a diagnosis of a learning disability,
so that they had longer in their tests. Yeah.
And I mean, it was actually a pretty complex scam, right? But
and
of course now you have the other side of it where that's shady and wrong and all that. And of course now someone is suing them for $100 billion because their kid didn't get into whatever school. Like it was something ridiculous.
Yeah.
One thing I thought CBC did a piece on it, which I thought was really interesting. I think they were interviewing a black professor who was saying that when he was going, and who was from a lower income family, and he was saying that when he was going through university at a top university in the States, everyone's always assuming, oh, you were just a quota guy. You just got in because they have to let in a certain number of black kids. Yeah. And to him, that makes this scandal extra ludicrous, extra incendiary, because in fact he got in on his merits. He actually did it, and you have all of these kids he was going to school with who probably weren't there on their bribery. So you have kids who are and I mean, I got that in school, but as a woman, like, oh, you only got that summer job because it was for women and blah blah blah. Like that. Never mind that 300 people applied for it and I got it. No, doesn't matter. It was earmarked for women. Therefore, so I kind of know how that feels, and it's shitty. I'm just like, I can see how it's absolutely outrageous that like, oh yeah. So in fact, you were the hypocrite the whole fucking time. Like,
it has made for a few people have brought up the traditional back door or side door to
right, buy a
admissions.
wing to the university,
Yeah.
and then your kid actually,
like Jared Kushner
that's
got
actually a thing.
into.
But that's legal.
Yeah,
It's not. I don't know if it's ethical, but it's legal.
well, it's certainly not ethical. But.
Right, but it's.
There's a lot of stuff that's legal but not right.
Yeah,
I've once heard it say that the law is actually a minimum ethical standard. It's not the ethical. You know what I mean? Like the law is just saying the absolute bare minimum,
Yeah, it's
which
kind of the
society
bottom
will not
floor.
go.
Right.
Yeah, bottom floor.
That's what the law is. So you don't.
you can bribe people in this way, but not in that way.
But then again, yeah, I mean, bringing us all the way back to Trump, I mean, that's the same thing is that that
Sorry.
jackass. But anyway, supposedly, yeah, he got into all these high-end, these schools, but it's because Daddy Trump.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I don't know. Well, and I mean, Trump, of course, still doesn't want anybody to see his grades.
Oh, yeah, well, that was one of the things that came up in the Cohen thing was that he was threatening to, if they released his transcripts.
But it was more than that, because he, at the same time that he was pressuring Obama to release his transcripts from college, he was threatening colleges. Well, you better not.
Yeah.
That's funny. Like that's really funny.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but
even though Obama was legitimately a smart man, got on to
That's right.
He
no question.
was head of.
Although he was a legacy as well, right? Like, he had a member of his family had gone to the school, or would it?
Oh, maybe. I didn't know. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So it's not that he didn't have some advantage because of his family, but he's not Donald Trump.
No, but I mean, he did get he was the head of his own. What was it? Law. He was the head of some prestigious thing at Harvard Law and whatever else. Like he's still a legitimately smart man.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I mean, in our society, there's no question that being from like an upper middle class or whatever is you're gonna have advantages. I mean, that's built into the society, and I mean that's an inequity, but it's not illegal in this way. You know,
No, that's right.
what we're talking about here.
Yeah, it's not straight up bribery
I mean, it's also arguably not unethical. I mean, if you benefit because of your societal privilege, something, I mean, like it's a hard thing to counter. I mean, it's great to try to, but it's not like it's, you are ethically compromised if
true.
You're from an upper middle class family and you use that like within the rules to do well. I mean, but it does certainly speak to the fact that nobody succeeds on their own. Right?
Yep,
Like nobody gets there on their own, and it's or not fully,
Unless you're Kylie Jenner and you're a self-made billionaire.
and that's not a thing. Right?
That's not a thing.
That's not a thing.
Not a thing.
Yeah,
fuck you, Kylie Jenner.
that's right. All right, well let's call it a close out to the rec table, and I will include
Rectum's done.
The rectum is done. I will include all links in the show notes to stories we covered and stories we didn't.
We take you now to a conversation being shouted across a hillside.
What? I said I'm trying to come up with a promo for this podcast.
What podcast?
The Geologic Podcast.
What?
The Geologic Podcast.
Oh, Harab's pointless meanderings, skeptical observations, ridiculous musical interludes, and not a hint of geology.
Well,
alright, maybe a little bit of geology, but it's not worth it.
Come on, he's got the religious moron of the week. Geo's mom reads Jay-Z lyrics.
Pointless.
Ask George.
Oh, who cares what the bastard thinks?
Interesting fauna.
Oh, great.
The horoscope.
Garbage.
Not the Bible.
Boring garbage.
Misinformed science.
Stupid garbage.
True Adventures of the Philadelphia Funk Authority.
Ooh, white Ukrainian boy playing drums in a funk band must be fascinating.
But none of that is appealing.
Not even a wee bit.
Great. Don't tune in then.
I won't.
Fine.
Fine.
Great.
Great.
Fine.
Great.
Great.
You said that already.
The Geologic Podcast. Pointless, but free. GeologicPodcast.com.
Okay, folks, so I just got a couple things I want to go through here, and before I do the outro. First, I want to thank our new patrons. We got 3 new patrons this month. One of my few remaining conservative friends is now a supporter of the show. Thanks, Richard Lounsbury, for becoming a patron. I'm pretty sure he's not becoming more of a leftist, but he is supporting us, and I really appreciate it. I want to thank Keith Davies, who I've talked to on Twitter quite a bit, and who is a regular listener. And I want to say thank you to Jesse Hoffner, who I consider a friend on Twitter. We also lost a patron, but overall we're sitting at 19 patrons. So when we hit 20, in the outro, I will not read off every single name anymore. As soon as we hit that 20. I want to thank our top patrons, but I also want to say thanks to everybody who contributes to the show. If you give us a little bit of money, it makes a big difference in my ability to keep doing the show. And I don't want to go into too much detail, but it seems like a lot of stuff is going on, and my income is possibly going down, and my housing costs are possibly going up. So any financial support that you can afford to give us it makes a big difference in the way that the time that I can spend on the show. So without too much more, I just want to say thanks to all our patrons, but a special thanks to our top patrons: the Flying Spaghetti Monster, Sauce Be Upon Him, Destin Doesn't Suck That Much, Aaron Young, Daryl Goosen, Rob Geiger, Larry Wilson, and the Utah Outcasts. For all the things, you can check out the show notes on our website, brainstormblog.net, and on our hosting page, thebrainstormpodcast.com. Thanks to our financial supporters: Magnus, Stephanie, Bob Glenn, the Utah Outcasts, Zach, Kayla, Freethinker215, Driffa, Keith, Richard, Kim, Larry, Rob, Daryl, Aaron, Destin Doesn't Suck That Much, the Flying Spaghetti Monster, Sauce Be Upon Him, and Jesse. If you want to join them and help the show grow, then you can do that at patreon.com/brainstormpodcast. I think I forgot one. Also the Podunk Polymath. So you can join them and help the show grow, then you can do that at patreon.com/brainstormpodcast, or you can give us a one-time donation at paypal.me/brainstormpodcast. If you want Brainstorm gear, then get it at tpublic.com/stores/brainstorm-podcast-gear. Our next live show is on April 12th, and our guests are supposed to be Tom and Cecil from the Cognitive Dissonance podcast. So stay tuned for that, and if you don't already know who they are, check out their website at dissonancepod.com. I want to give a big thanks to the guest for this recording session. It was Jonathan Maloney. That interview will be coming out next week. You can find his stuff at intelligentspeculation.com. Thank you to Dave for our intro music. Thanks to Aaron Rabbi from Embrace the Void for doing the voiceover for the intro. You can find his stuff at voidpod.com. Thanks to Alex Capper Murdoch for doing the voiceover for our ads, and thanks to Jason Camo for our outro music. You can find his stuff at aloststateofmind.com. All music played is either with permission or under the SOCAN license to play. For more information on SOCAN, you can check out the music license info page on our website, brainstormblog.net. I just renewed that this year, so definitely check that out if you have any questions about the license to play music in Canada. We did not do an after hours show for this recording session, but I did include about 8 minutes of just banter before we started this segment into the Patreon version of this episode. So if you're interested in just hearing us shoot the shit a little bit extra and just a couple stories from our daily lives, feel free to go and become a patron. You can get that. Remember to give us a rating, a thumbs up, or a fave on your podcatcher of choice. Join our Facebook group, like our page, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our subreddit, sign up for our newsletter. Jesus, it's a lot of stuff. Share the show and spread the word. The more you share, comment, and like our stuff, the more it helps the show grow. I want to thank Lisa and Rene for recording with me on the 15th of March. And remember, everybody, the truth matters.